Oh God! All right. Okay, I'm gonna tell you everything everything you ever wanted to know about vinyl.
Okay.
And it's weird. It's weird talking about it because the the vibe of vinyl has changed.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's been like a huge resurgence in people appreciating it. Um, and so I remember I told somebody one time that I had a vinyl collection that I was into it, and they asked me are you into are you into it because it's trendy? Essentially asking me
Oh, yeah.
are you a hipster vinyl collector?
Yeah.
And so that's when I realized that that was a phenomenon that that yeah. And so I guess the reason I say that is because the whole everything I'm going to explain first, just about why vinyl is great, just for everything that doesn't have to do with the music, all the other reasons, they all sound like that. They sound incredibly hipstery and a little
Yeah.
pretentious and over the top nostalgic and stuff. It's all valid, but now it's all completely valid, but it has that association now. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, I'm not I never had a turntable or anything. My interest in vinyl is strictly because I think that it's the best format aesthetically.
100%.
Just
Yeah.
the fact that the artwork is as big as it is, and
Yes.
it's such a surface level kind of take, but that's as a
Yeah.
format to create a cohesive album package.
Yeah. There's
This
nothing
is
beats it.
yeah, this is where it's at.
So yeah, I'm gonna start with all of that stuff,
Sure.
all of the surface level stuff. So yeah, the best part is that on multiple levels, when you have something on vinyl, and this is something that's just true for all physical media, but you get to hang out with it,
Yep.
which is something that we're losing. And yeah, it's freaking nice. It's your favorite things, you go into the room and you see them there, you know, and just seeing it, especially if it's an album that's special to you or that you really enjoy or you connected with in the past or whatever. You just see the record and you have feelings immediately. You kind of hear some of the music, you remember how it feels to listen to it, and that's just extremely pleasant. I have the same thing with DVDs. I love seeing the wall of DVDs.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
I like seeing all the colors of the art and the boxes, and yeah, I just see them and they make me feel better in the same way that if I popped it in, it would feel good.
Sure. Right. Because you
Yeah.
get to you get to experience some of the art on a purely aesthetic level, where kind of as nice as the playlists and the streaming and as convenient as that is,
Yeah, sure.
it there's a disconnect between you and the piece of work because it's just sort of in the cloud there.
Pretty much.
Even though
Yeah.
technically you're way more connected because
It's always with you.
right, you could
Yeah.
always listen.
It's
to
always right there. Yeah, that is a good point. It's an odd combination of it's so much more accessible. It's always right in your pocket, but it's just not as it's not as an intimate experience,
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I'll touch on next is that yeah, another big reason people are attracted to vinyl is that it more so, not entirely, but more so, forces you to listen to music intentionally, which
yeah.
I think that's another thing that has been lost a little bit with streaming services. Not entirely. There's some crossover here. Like it's, of course, possible to listen to something streaming intentionally. Like there's a lot of hi-fi people, like super fancy hi-fi people that part of their setup is essentially like a music streaming box.
Yeah.
That just connects to Apple Music and Spotify or whatever you want. And
that's the only device I want, honestly.
Sure, yeah.
That's fantastic.
With like high quality outputs that they can hook up to their system and everything.
Yeah.
So you can 100% do that. And it's not like, you can it's not like you can't put on a vinyl and then do something else. Put on a vinyl and have a conversation or clean or do dishes or whatever. But I think in general, the vinyl experience, it inspires intentional listening a bit more.
Oh yeah.
And this is something people talked about a lot, but yeah, I gotta mention it. Yeah, just the whole ritual of it.
Yep.
And so
having to flip it when you get to the middle.
Yeah,
so you have to kind of be paying attention to where the record is.
The whole process requires attention, and it's like it turns listening to music in like this to like some kind of there's not a better word for it. Yeah, some kind of like ritualistic thing, and especially like the more you get into it, the more you enjoy the vinyl experience, the more like detailed, meticulous it gets. Mm-hmm. Because you could just like throw it on there, drop the needle, you're done. But then you start, the more you care about it, it just starts getting crazier. Where like, you have a particular kind of special sleeve that you put the record itself in.
Sure, yeah.
So that it doesn't get scratched over time.
Did you replace the sleeves in these?
Yes, I replaced the sleeves on all of my records.
Yeah, so that was that bad.
Yes, very, very. I think it's getting more common now that there's been such a resurgence, but very few records come with good sleeves.
It's just like a paper sleeve, generally.
Yeah, most of the time, and nowadays it's getting more common. Well, you'll have like it'll be a paper sleeve on the outside, but then it'll have the like plastic inner part to help protect it. But yeah, I bring that up just to say, like, getting the special sleeve, and then you, like, slip it out. You have to slip it out slowly because...
You don't want to scratch it.
Well, you don't want to... I mean, you don't have to worry about scratching. You don't want to build up static electricity as you pull it out. So you got to pull it out nice and smooth and slow. Put it on the platter,
Static electricity. So, yeah, talk about that a little bit. Because, like, that's an aspect of this that I've messed around with vinyl, but I've never really thought about that.
Yeah, static electricity... comes into play quite a lot if you're trying to if you're really trying to get like the best sound you can out of your system, because of course with vinyl there's almost always going to be some level of artifacts from the medium, some like sound artifacts from the medium.
Sure.
Especially if it was recorded back in the day, even if it's perfect, everything's perfect, you're still going to have like some tape hiss from the analog tape that it was recorded on. There's always going to be something there. And
that sorry to interrupt, but that does seem to be those aspects of it are kind of paradoxically like what people talk about as like why they like vinyl, is the things that are like from a sound perspective, like what's like not right about it.
Yeah, like and it's an interesting thing is that like and that is an experience you can have of like appreciating that, because there is something charming to those artifacts.
I feel that way about cassette tape.
And yeah, same thing. You get this tape hiss. Now, while I do understand that, like the real killer vinyl experience is when you get rid of as much of those artifacts as possible. Sure. Because the pure sonic experience of a vinyl record is very special, and all that stuff is kind of distracting if you're really trying to get to if you're really trying to make the music sound as best as it possibly can. And so static electricity plays a big role in like that, or not a big role. That's something that people have to contend with quite a bit in different ways to get a really good sound from the record, because the whole process is like one big static electricity generator. Not only just like pulling it out of the sleeve and everything, but as you're playing the record and the stylus is dragging across the whole surface of the record, it's just generating static electricity that whole time. Just like you rub your feet on the carpet.
Yeah.
So it's just for 40 minutes just like
Right. Yeah.
rubbing itself on the surface of the record, generating static electricity. And that'll kind of like hang out on the record. It'll just hang out on the record unless you discharge it in some fashion. So a few interesting ways people do that is, one, they try to prevent it by things like not pulling it out of the package too fast, and like and also I was going to mention, like part of like the vinyl ritual to get it set up. If you get into it, you end up, before you put it on the platter, you
Is there like a...
Yeah, you spend some time, you look at it, you check it out, and see if there's any dust or anything obvious on it, and then you give it a little wipe down. And that's a whole thing. That's a whole thing too with I'll tie this back into static electricity. It's very common to see like somebody put a record on the platter and then clean it on the platter.
Okay.
So like start up the record so it's spinning.
Oh, and then
take a certain kind of brush and then hold it there,
let it spin.
And dude,
Was that not it?
No, it's fine. This is all fine.
Sure.
It's just like it's such a rabbit hole. It's just like, how crazy do you want to go? Like, how meticulous, how detail oriented do you want to be?
Are you starting to think about dust transferring from the record to the plate and then back to the record?
Yes, that, and because the act of cleaning it involves rubbing something along the surface, or like cleaning it but dusting it, wiping it. Involves rubbing something along the surface, causing another opportunity for static electricity. And if you do it on the platter, it builds up more static electricity in that zone.
Oh, geez.
And so you could knock dust off, and the dust just like static just floats back.
Oh,
like, to the record.
Sure.
And if you do it on the platter, you could potentially be just like building up dust in that area that you might not notice for a while that could get stuck back on. So it's kind of like if it's incredible if you do all the things and you just have a perfectly clean record, no distractions, no weird audio artifacts, just the good system, everything's balanced. It's an incredible experience. But starting on the road there, it's almost like a curse, because like once you do one thing to try to make it better, you're just like, dear God, there's so much I have to consider now. Where before, like, you had fun just throwing the record on,
right?
But now it's just like, it's not good enough. I must hear nothing. But yeah, so there's a few different ways people deal with static electricity. The most common one is it's like, it looks like a little gun. It looks like a hot glue gun, actually, and they're called zerostats.
Okay.
And
yeah, I mean, I know I've seen these.
Yeah, honestly, I forget exactly like how it functions, like what it's doing. And if I tried to explain it, I'd probably fuck it up. But essentially you press the trigger on this thing while pointing it at the surface of your record or your turntable, and it does something, and it discharges static electricity in that area. And I've heard that it works okay.
That's about the extent of it.
I've heard it gets the job done. I even saw One little anomaly I saw that I was very curious about, but I didn't pursue was, and I've never seen anybody use it because I think it had some problems. But it was a record cleaning brush with very very fine stainless steel bristles, right?
Okay.
But very very fine, like
Yeah.
fine enough to be soft that it would not damage the record, right?
Right. This ain't no like Harbor Freight.
No, no, it's not a wire brush. We're not stripping paint, but and then it was hooked up to like the brush itself had like a power cord
Okay.
that you could plug into a wall outlet, and it wouldn't connect to the hot or cold. It would just connect to the ground, so it could like discharge static electricity like while you're cleaning.
You just send it directly to ground.
Send it directly to ground, and I thought that was kind of fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
And so I was doing a little bit more research to see like if it actually worked well, and a lot of people were like, yeah, it worked well, but it's leaving little stainless steel hairs on my record, and it's like screwing it's I'm worried about my stylus hitting it and stuff like that, and so I'm like, I'll just use something else. But so that was an interesting idea though. I like the idea to kill two birds with one stone, like clean it and drain all the static charge away from your system. And then
there's like got to be a better way of doing that.
The fanciest way I've seen it, which is like you will see this if you go to like places that press records and try to do like a really good job.
Okay.
Doing it. They have like an air compressor that shoots like, I think it's like nitrogen gas. So they can like blow shit off of the surface of the record. And I think, I could be wrong on this, but it's the important bit is that it's like blowing shit off the surface of the record while discharging static electricity with whatever the composition of this special air mixture they're using. So that's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what, like, if somebody's being extremely intentional, trying to press that master disc perfectly and everything, like get a little air compressor shit.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
So that's all the static stuff. But yes, to tie it back in, all this stuff is part of the, part of this ritual. I mean, it's basically like, it's reminiscent of like some witchcraft shit.
Yeah.
Just like draw this symbol and light these candles in this area. It's this same sort of meticulous step-by-step thing.
Yeah, right. There's like preparation involved.
Yes. So yeah, you slip it out slow so you don't try to not generate static electricity on the record. You inspect it, you clean it. It's also like, if you really care about it, it turns into like my vinyl collection is kind of, it's like it becomes like an entity, that you care for,
Sure.
And so there's been times where like, ooh, I have extra money just at the right time. Let's do a big like upgrade to the comfort and care of all my records,
Yep.
Then you put it down on your player, making sure to hold it correctly. You got to hold your baby right.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
Because you don't want to get oils or any extra oils from your fingers in any of the grooves or something. So you got to hold it on the edge.
It's like the CD thing.
It's like the CD thing. So you either like hold it on the edge, or you have to like hold it with your thumb on the edge, and then your fingers in the center of the label. So perfect. And then you put it down, and then you got to line up the stylus just right, and then drop it, and play, and then of course the flipping later, and then putting it back slow. It's this whole thing that it forces you. I mean, again, obviously you could not care this much and still have a good time. I'm not saying like this is how you get down with vinyl. You could just like throw it on, and
it's gonna sound cool
and enjoy it. It's still no matter what, at this point in time, vinyl is just a fun, novel activity.
Yes.
Yeah, for anybody.
I kind of think about it in the same way that is the audio recording.
Huh?
Is the audio recording?
Yeah, just this one though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I tested it and it was.
Sorry about.
No,
about
I don't
that.
care. I don't care.
But yeah, I kind of think about it like now that we're like fully in streaming, like everything is about just having everything be on the internet and like playlistification and all that.
Playlistification.
Like it's these things are almost more valuable as this is better than like a t-shirt, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like as a piece of like memorabilia or like just an art form into itself that really like, I mean, the fact the music's on there is like, I mean, it's a big part of it. But honestly, it's largely just to have the thing.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah,
cassette tapes are very much the same to me like that.
We're seeing their value. We're seeing their value as merchandise come back in a different way. Yeah, because I've seen people who they will get a. Because some bands do that where they'll make a cassette for fun to like put at the merch table, and it's good. And I've seen people, excuse me, buy those who don't even have the means to play a cassette. That's just the coolest thing on the table,
right?
And it's just
and you could sell it for $10 and still make money.
It's so that is a really good point, and I've had that. I've had that same experience as well because now obviously like I also most of the vinyl I bought it was because that's how I wanted to have that music, you know.
Yeah.
But I've experienced that too where like I saw this I watched a movie a couple years ago now called Mad God. That one I let you borrow.
Yeah.
It was batshit crazy. And I had such a fun time watching the movie. I loved it so much. I just was compelled to I was compelled to like buy something that would support the production company and the guy who made it in some way. Because I just watched it on like a streaming service, so I like, you know, I'm sure he got money from the streaming service, but I wanted that feeling of like I want money to go directly to you, or at least closer, you know. And but the Blu-ray and DVD wasn't available yet, so I was looking around like I just want something, you know. So I was looking at do they have shirts? Do they have something?
Yeah, some kind of. I mean, there's so much awesome imagery in that movie that was just easy. I mean, the merchandising potential, if you're to be so shrewd, is really off the chain.
It's huge. But yeah, I found out that they had the soundtrack like before the Blu-ray was available. They had the soundtrack on vinyl ready. It would I like pre-ordered it at the time, but But yeah, to your point, like that it was like a no-brainer. I was like, you know, like the decision to specifically get the vinyl, because there were other things I could have done.
But it's like, I mean,
like, in terms of something special that'll like make me feel connected to that piece of art and remind me of it, and the vinyl, you know, vinyl cassettes, it's become like the coolest thing to collect from something, you know, and it's people who don't even necessarily have the means to play it, it's still just cool to have on the shelf. A lot of people, because things like that are they're extremely useful as conversation pieces, which I feel like I don't know. I'm fairly out of touch, mostly intentionally, and like I feel like I feel like I feel like maybe like the value of conversation pieces is getting a little slept on.
Sure.
I could be wrong, and I probably am, but like I don't know. I'll say this for sure. I really like when somebody values that quality in something, that like, oh, I want that in my house because I can
It'll be something to talk about.
yeah, we can I can connect with people over that. We can share words, we can have, and that's just fun.
Well, like, and this the business with streaming stuff is that those like literally the same songs, that same collection of music, as a streaming option, the only way to interact with it requires you to look at your phone, which is the opposite of a conversation
That's
piece,
true.
generally speaking. Like you can, obviously
You can put it on and yeah.
Right, and I've had plenty of fun in-person discourse where the conversation piece was like, oh, check out this thing on my phone.
Yeah, sure.
And it's like,
yeah.
But it still kind of it still definitely changes things to have like a physical object, like have like a thing, like a piece of art into itself.
It's nice. I mean, not only is it like tactile, but it like right off the bat, it's a little more engaging because that the person like went out of their way to like bring this physical object into their house.
Now, I have been utterly sleeping on Jethro Tull. Like, I mean, I like so much of the stuff that I've heard, but you've told me to listen to this record, and I've done absolutely nothing of the sort, which I'm sorry about that. But
as you should be, dude. Travesty.
I mean, like my understanding is I'm the one who's kind of missing out.
Yes, I will talk about that one a little later.
Sure.
I'm going to talk about all these records a little later.
Sure.
Oh God. So okay, no, this is perfect. Yeah, this is perfect. Another surface level aspect of what makes vinyl special is the extra shit which you are holding. Now,
I love being able to have access to all the lyrics and all of that.
And what's
right
fun
here.
about, because obviously, like, if you're streaming something, sometimes there is extra information.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's like a nice long description of the record or something like that. And then of course, you're on the internet already, so if you want any extra information, it's accessible, but you do have to go look for it. You do have to do an internet search or ask a
Go on
chatbot.
Genius.
Yeah, whatever. Excuse me. And but there is something that's a lot of fun about having just whatever extra shit they wanted to put in there, whatever extra information, it's all right there. And I have had a lot of fun sometimes, like reading through some of the stuff I found in albums I picked up from the thrift store, or like just certain records, they just like, and then it's right there, so you can play the record, especially nowadays because we always need to be like looking at something, to take in any like music.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't see what's going on out there, but we always got to be looking at something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. It's kind of fun to like put on the record, be listening to it while like reading like a really nice, well written, like kind of story about like like how this record got made and who was involved and kind of some of the feelings that went into it. And it's all right there, and it's very pleasant. Sometimes there's some amazing stuff on the back, sometimes a lot longer than you might think. And so that's another part of it. Just this bonus stuff. We missed out on that with with streaming movies and television as well. Just all those bonus features.
Yeah, there was that golden era of, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
how old do I suddenly sound talking about the golden era? But like, I mean, there was like something, there was seriously something to
The golden age of bonus features.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's really something to having like that extra documentation, like even like just the canned opinions of people who are involved in the production.
Yeah.
It's nice, you know, like when I was younger and we had like the VHS tapes, and when you had a VHS and you were like a kid in the 90s, it was just you watch the tape and then you rewind and you watch the tape again.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, you know, I've seen like Home Alone 2 9 million times.
Yes,
And
correct. That's correct.
in that exact same way.
Yes.
And so when I got to the point where there was like, we got the DVDs and there were all the bonus features and stuff, that was just that extra level of like, you know, you'd been appreciating this work by watching it repeatedly as a kid or whatever, and it was cool to see all the behind the scenes stuff, and it was very aspirational for me as a person who was like, as a kid who was like interested in theater and interested in doing like stage productions or doing like acting or of that sort of stuff, to see that side of it. And it was that's kind of gone.
It was nice to have it right there. You didn't have to go out of your way. Like, it just came, it just made those kind of things more accessible. And there's some really interesting stuff. And yeah, same thing. Like, for like a film that you just really enjoy and you just like re-exploring it over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it gives you like more nooks and crannies to explore.
But I'm thinking about this stuff. We were like, books are an analog also. I've been getting really into like just reading novels lately.
Sure. Yeah.
I just got done reading 1Q84 by Murakami, and that's just it's a world in 1,200 pages, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And to have this object that is just that's, I think, the thing that gets really lost in all of the internet and streaming sort of stuff that I take for granted and I love,
Mm-hmm.
is that the device you're using to access the thing has unlimited opportunities to be anything you want it to be.
Oh,
whereas
yeah, that's a good point to bring up.
Only this.
It's only that. Yeah.
And so this is like a world inside of itself.
Yeah, it's like a little bubble. It's its own little world. Yeah.
Right. In the same way
That's
that
true.
like a really
Yeah.
good novel or something is like that, where it's like,
There's if you got a book open, that's what is going on.
right, that is right, that's the thing. It's not questionable.
Yeah, you're not taking a break to check your email or
right, nothing's going to pop up. There's not going to be any push
nothing's
notification
gonna pop
in
up.
here. And I mean, you know,
Yeah.
it's small stuff, but it adds up.
It does. Like, and I think that that speaks to kind of the general theme of this first block of information about vinyl is that it just by the nature of it, it makes you focus. It makes you like focus in on what you're doing. It makes you pay attention. And as I said earlier, it inspires intentional listening, because I feel like that was way more common previously, is that music was not just something on in the background. It was like you went to the record store, you picked something out, you went home, you put it on, and you sat there, and you just like
Yeah, you
just checked it out.
You did the thing where you have your hi-fi system. Mm-hmm. You sit in the chair.
Yes, correct. Yeah, you sit down and you just experience that record. And then again, commenting on the bonus material, the liner notes, the lyrics right there in front of you. It's just more stuff to bring you into the moment, to like fully immerse you in just the experience of listening to that music.
Yeah.
Just to take you in, so that's all you're doing for that time. You're not thinking about anything else. You're not paying attention to anything else. You're just fully immersed in the sound and like
all of the other
fun extra information. But it's all focused on just this one thing.
Yeah.
And so not only is like the record hanging out in the room with you, which is nice, because it's just pleasant, man. Like when I look over at my record shelf,
yeah,
like my shoulders relax just a little bit. Like I get it, like my stomach chills out. Like it's they're doing emotional work over there for me. Like it's nice, you know. With streaming stuff, and I'll say this right now, I don't want this to have a vibe of the, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I
just like streaming is bullshit. Like,
no, it's great.
Yeah, I use it, and I 100% like see and experience everything that is great about it.
Right.
We're just talking about exactly why vinyl is so special.
I love and like, you know, the last record the record that I put out with Flu-Like Symptoms.
Yeah.
We have that. We made CDs, we made cassettes, we made vinyl.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, 2020.
Nice.
And so we have a lot of unsold physical material.
I'll buy one.
Yeah,
you still got a vinyl? I want it.
Yeah, I'll bring one by.
Hell yeah.
But what I really liked about it was that while I was out traveling, I'd meet people. I'd be talking to people. Like, you have your single serving friends when you're on a plane or you're on a bus or something like that. You end up talking to somebody, and I liked that they had my record already. All I had to do is tell them how to find it.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Like, I love that.
Just wherever you go, it is accessible.
So like, yeah, I mean, there's a tendency, like, and I consider myself to be a very like technophobic sort of person in a lot of respects.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I mean, I have a flip phone, and I try not to use the internet super a lot.
And yeah, I've told you before, like I get it. And
yeah.
The only reason I'm like, there's things I need to do that I need the stuff that everyone else has.
Yeah, there are so many amazing things about life in the world that we're living in. Mm-hmm. Like, so many amazing things. It's such a shame that so many of the knock-on effects are so dystopian.
Yeah.
Like, because you know,
I apologize. The what effects?
The like just kind of the additional sort of knock-on effects of having these amazing things.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
okay.
Having constant access to everything has the side effect of, you know, sometimes maybe we aren't ready to have constant access to everything. Maybe, you know, you have a hard time being able to focus on any one particular thing when you have constant access to everything. That's the issue I have.
Yeah, it has strange effects. The benefits are obvious.
Mm-hmm. And I love them, and as often as possible, I will douse myself in the benefits of our current amazing level of technology.
Like you said, how like everybody, like if you release a record, like everybody already kind of has it.
Yeah.
Like that tripped me out. Like I remember Now, one thing I still am currently resisting is any sort of like voice activated assistant. I'm just not down.
I'm good. I don't want it. No,
I'm just not down.
Nope.
Even though like my phone is that, Like, I just don't want an extra thing that's all it does.
No.
I don't.
Now, those devices... Yeah. I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead. Doesn't matter.
Those devices come so close to being exactly what I want. Because really all I want is a speaker that is connected to the internet that will play any song that I want it to play at my request. And that's all I want. Like, that is like the Library of Alexandria of musical devices. That's what I want.
I guess you could do it like analog, but just like hire a guy to operate Apple Music for you.
Yeah, I have my own DJ.
Just say like, Thin Lizzy. It's like, yep, okay.
I have a guy who might do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would like. Like, I have a friend who's got one of those like Google whatever the heck.
Google whatever's, yeah, sure.
One of those Googles,
yeah.
One of those Googlers. And it's fun to go into her house and be like, okay, Google, play Despacito.
Yeah, I like visiting them. They're fun to screw around with.
But I don't want it sitting there listening to everything I do.
I just don't care. It's not even really that like
I'm not even that paranoid about it, but I still don't want it. Yeah, I still don't want it.
I'd just rather not. But the reason I bring it up is that I had just put out an album, and like the next week or something, I was out visiting my parents at their house, and they have something, and they were like, "Oh, can we hear it?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Play, just like play me."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yep." And it's just, it's nuts. It's crazy.
That is crazy awesome.
The amount of accessibility is insane.
Yeah.
But let me think here. So
I was able to show people your music.
Yeah, it's
in that exact same way.
It's incredible.
And like, anytime I work with any new artists or anything, I like if I'm talking to anybody about like, oh yeah, I started working with that. Oh, what do they sound like?
Like that.
It's like this. Yeah, like here you go. You have
done.
Here, you have access to all of their music now. There you go. You didn't hear of them 5 minutes ago, but now you have access to their entire catalog.
Yep.
It slaps.
And honestly, so like, to make a bridge back into vinyl, something that I've noticed now is so like when like making decisions on like what vinyl to buy.
Sure.
Because unfortunately, that's another aspect of vinyl right now, since there is a resurgence in popularity. If you go into like a record store now, almost everything is like $30 or $40, which I can understand for new things, because that's manufacturing cost and profit. I get it, but all the prices are creeping up.
Right.
If the record,
this didn't become more expensive to move just because things are more popular. This isn't suddenly worth more money.
Yes.
But it is.
Yes, because people want it.
Yeah.
So that's another kind of effect and like evidence of its increasing trendiness. Which
that's why it's CD time now.
Yeah, get in there.
Get in there now.
Yeah,
in 15 years,
people are already starting to get nostalgic for like those 90s and early 2000s like consumer level stereo systems, like the one you would you get at like Target or Walmart, that has like the central like thing with the CD player and the cassette player and a radio, and then just the two speakers that usually like slot into the people
so
are
you can kind of treat it like it's a boombox if you want to.
Yeah. People are already getting nostalgic for that, but so I
want one.
I feel like like any resurgence in compact discs, personally, and I've seen people who have different views on this, so it's just how I feel. But
I'm very much team CD. By the way, I think a resurgence in CDs. I feel like it's almost entirely nostalgia. Although it does, again, it makes for a more intentional experience. It's still something you have to pick out and put in, and just that's all you're listening to right there. So it does still have those qualities that all physical media has.
But one of the big reasons I feel that vinyl came back is that it really presents an entirely different listening experience than streaming or CDs or anything else. And although like it's weird to talk, I'll talk more about this in a minute, but it's not like it's not an easy way to listen to music.
No.
And it's and from certain perspectives you could say that they don't have great sound quality.
Yeah. It's not really super clean.
Yeah,
usually.
like
It's
from a certain
like
perspective.
kind of exaggeratingly warm.
However, where it does come into play, where the quality that people actually experience is because like, and I'll expand on this in a moment, but it is it's the most musical way to listen to music. Like everything about vinyl and the process that leads up to having a vinyl record, it's everything reinforces the musicality. And I'll expand on this in detail. The last thing I have to talk about is we'll get as nerdy as this gets, and we'll get into the weeds a little bit, but it's really fun. Because like on Apple Music, everything is advertised as lossless now.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. Meaning that everything is like
FLAC.
Like FLAC wave. Everything is uncompressed.
Sure.
Which is ideal. And so,
I'm also big member of Team MP3 though, so like that's another.
I get it. Listen.
But
MP3s at like.
I always encode to 128.
You got to do 320.
320.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 320 is like minimum for it to still sound comparable to something.
Okay, sure, yeah.
But okay, I'm gonna get into this shit. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so, I think I covered like all the surface level stuff about why vinyl's so great. It's literal. It's a large piece of art that's in your room. A lot of people frame them,
Yep.
So they're very easy to appreciate that. They hang out with you in the room. You get to see them as you walk by and have feelings about them. So they like affect your emotions on a daily basis. And the whole process, the whole process of playing the vinyl really focuses you in, makes you more intentional. And again, I know I've said this a couple times, but it's one of my favorite things about it. It inspires treating the music as its own event, not just something you put on in the background. It makes you focus in, or at least helps. And all the bonus stuff. Just you have this big record, so there's or this big package, so there's tons of room for stuff on the back. And I think at the end of this, I want to read my favorite thing I've ever seen.
On a vinyl? On a record?
Yeah, on one of the record jackets.
Yeah.
I
mean, there's a reason that when somebody plays on one of the late night shows, they're like, "We got Jethro Tull here tonight," and they have the vinyl. It looks the best.
It does.
It's the best looking thing.
It's nice, and it also, I feel like it inspired.
AI. Cover that up.
Take it easy, man. Trying to fly under the radar. Okay, so now I'm gonna get into the weeds on the actual like audio experience of vinyl and like what sets it apart, why it's still so attractive despite all like the artifacts that can happen, and why at the end of the day, it's worth the effort, and comparing that to like high resolution digital audio that exists now, and why this is still special.
Like just from a personal experience, having done all of that where we made a single record and released it on every format possible.
Yes.
Like I have a really good appreciation now for the sonic differences between the formats because like
you have like a control. Like
right. It's the same recording, it's the same songs, it's the same everything. And yes, I didn't expect it to be the case. I went in fully thinking that the vinyl hype was vinyl hype, but the record sounds the best on the vinyl. It sounds the most. There's the least of the like overdriven guitars and other things like that can impart a certain amount of like to a certain degree in a recording, for lack of a better word, like a high end or like a mid rangey kind of like.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Like grit.
It has a. Well, one person described it as like digital audio recording is God, I forget his name. It was the he put it perfectly. He's done a lot, but probably most famously, he was the producer / engineer who worked on the first Queens of the Stone Age album.
Okay.
Worked on Songs for the Deaf.
Yeah.
Yeah, he put it perfectly. It's that like analog recording, it messed up the sound, but in a very musical way.
Much the same way that like a good guitar amp does.
A good tube amp. And that like any kind of like, unpleasant experiences with digital audio recording is like because of how accurately, like it is very accurate.
Yeah. There's not this kind of like smoothing out.
It reminds me of how nice it was if you go back and watch something that was shot on film.
Yeah.
And it kind of softens everything. And so that's kind of like analog recording. It sort of softened everything, and it brought out like it served the artistic expression in a very pleasant way. And so like the technology, it wasn't highly accurate, but it served the music. And then digital recording is just like a bright white fluorescent light, like you can see everything.
Yeah.
And that's not always great for art. And so you have to, of course, you can still make good music. You have to work with that, but that's kind of what's happening. But
and we recorded our record entirely on digital. Mm-hmm. Everything was like in Pro Tools, and but yeah, once it got converted to once pressed into vinyl, it was just smoother. The dynamic range was better.
Yeah.
There was less of that like clippy sort of like aggressive volume kind of like flatlining, which
vinyl
the record was. I don't think the record was particularly clippy or anything like that anyway, but it's noticeably less on the vinyl. And like the tape introduced a different thing entirely, where there was like more of this kind of like almost like you were running it through a high pass filter.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was also that like flutter, like a little bit of like tape flutter and a little bit of wow.
Oh, interesting.
But that, to me, that's the sound of a tape. And like, honestly, for certain things, you just can't beat it. It really, sure. There's maybe it's just nostalgia, but
it definitely plays a role.
But like, I mean, man, there's a vibe. There's an unquestionable vibe.
To your point, all these mediums, they do have different feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I want to get into what's going on with
what's vinyl, what's vinyl doing,
and the technology that goes into this. And so, before I get into any of this, I have to, or I want to describe how digital audio recording functions, so that we can compare that to what it used to be like.
Yeah.
So, in order for a computer to deal with a signal coming from a cable or whatever, it has to turn it into its language. It has to turn it into a binary.
Yeah, it turns in ones and zeros.
Yeah,
so you get these like
zeros.
Steps.
Correct. So what it does is it takes the computer takes snapshots of the incoming signal, and it's just gathering data on the incoming signal, and these little snapshots are referred to as samples. and they're taken at regular intervals. And so when it takes a little sample of incoming voltage from a cable that's hooked up to whatever, a microphone, a guitar, whatever, it's just taking in data of just like how strong is the signal, and like what's the frequency information at that very moment. So it takes all these little samples, and then but when it takes these samples, it leaves this space in between, where in between samples it takes, and it just fills in the gap.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. It's like it's making little guesses all the time.
It's making little guesses all the time. Now, that if you take enough samples per second, which for reference, the standard sample rate that was used for compact discs was 44,100 samples a second.
That's a fair amount of data.
It's a fair amount of data. But yeah, so it's filling in the gaps, but the gaps are very, very small. And
Sure.
so you're not going to audibly hear like the computer doing its thing in there. It's enough, right?
Right.
But
as you start to decrease the sample rate, then you start to hear that.
For sure. And
with my famous 128 kilobyte MP3s.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
start to get a little
you
bit of
can hear if you get like you can get like plugins and stuff that do like bit reduction and sample rate reduction to give you like a feeling of like what that sounds like.
Sure.
So that's pretty much like the minimum that the industry goes. However, things have advanced way beyond that, and we're already to the point. It went from 44,100 to 88,000 to 96,000 samples a second to like 192,000 samples a second, and so that's when you get in. That's when you get into the realm of extremely high resolution digital audio, which is incredible.
Yeah.
If you record something at an extremely high sample rate and enough bit depth to give you a huge dynamic range, it sounds ridiculously good. It's so clean, it's so natural, it's gorgeous. But here's where we tie this back into vinyl. No matter what, it's still a computer. Mm-hmm. No matter how often it makes these samples,
it still has to make little guesses.
It's still cutting it up and putting it back together.
Yeah.
And that never happens with the analog process that leads to a vinyl record. Now it's a little different nowadays because people are making digital albums and then pressing them on vinyl. Yep. And I'll comment on that just briefly. I still think that's a valuable thing to do.
Sure.
Because of what we talked about earlier, it's just like, it's the best souvenir.
Yeah.
And the vinyl experience, it still inspires you to just focus in and listen to the music. So if you hear an album streaming that you're like, I love this, and it's pressed on vinyl, you can get that, and it'll facilitate like just more dedicated worship of that music.
Sure, yeah. And like you're still gonna get some of those some of the sonic qualities, some of that kind of like
it's gonna
baking together.
It's gonna impart some color, and it's gonna be cool.
Right.
Yeah. So
there is like that. I said,
yeah.
our record. I mean, it sounds. It's not like night and day different.
But
from the CD to the vinyl,
yeah.
But I mean, it's definitely noticeable.
Yeah.
Just it's a little bit more dynamic range, just a little bit cleaner.
And so that situation exists a little outside of what I'm going to talk about.
Sure.
But it still has value. But what I'm going to talk about specifically is vinyl that came out of the age of an
Just
entire
a full analog
analog process.
Analog mixing, mastering, and
analog boards, analog boards with circuitry, analog tape machines to an analog listening medium. So again, no matter how many samples a second a computer does, it's still cutting it up and putting it back together.
It's not baking it directly to the tape.
No. But what we get with this fully analog process, and I'll describe it to you because it's gorgeous. So let's just take somebody singing, just into a microphone. That's what they're recording. The sound comes out of their mouth as air pressure waves. And that's air pressure waves are completely continuous. They're not cut up at all, just like every other wave in life. It's of a whole. It's all together. So we start out with air pressure waves. Those air pressure waves make a diaphragm on a microphone vibrate sympathetically, which is connected to a magnet and a spool of wire, which takes those vibrations from the air and changes them into voltage. Voltage is also a completely continuous wave, just an electrical one at that level. That goes through the cable, that goes to the tape machine, which takes that electrical information, that voltage, and changes it into fluctuations of a magnetic field, which then reorganizes all the magnetic particles on the tape into a waveform that represents the voltage, represents the air pressure waves, represents the voice. So it's still all together, it is unbroken, unbitten. And then that gets pressed onto vinyl, another completely analog experience, completely continuous. They take those magnetic fluctuations from the tape, and they make a master disc by turning the magnetic fluctuations back into voltage, and then back into physical movement. They run it in reverse, and so the cutting stylus for the record, they turn the voltage back into physical movement, which etches the literal waveform into the vinyl itself. Okay. Which is why when you play vinyl, you can have it turned all the way down and you can hear it coming off the record.
Sure, because it's
literally
making the acoustic sound of what's on the record.
Yes.
And then just amplifying that sound.
Yes. Now it's amplifying. It's not amplifying the acoustic sound off the record. It's amplifying the voltage fluctuation that you get as the stylus goes back and forth.
Okay, sure.
Because there's a magnet in there, and so it has it creates a little magnetic field in there that
kind of
fluctuates.
Kind of like using the piezoelectric pickup.
Yeah.
You get sort of a similar kind of thing there.
Mm-hmm. But regardless, you can hear it coming right off the record, because the waveform information is right there. Right. If you zoomed in far enough, you'd see the waveform, which is another cool thing about having it in the room. Not only is the art in the room, but the music is literally on the shelf.
Yeah,
it's not because, and I mean, you could still look at it as it's still kind of like a set of instructions, because that's 100% what digital music is. It's not really the music; it's a set of instructions for the equipment.
Right. For the equipment to
recreate it.
Yeah, replicate the music.
And so you from a certain perspective, you can still see it, but there's something a little more direct of it's literally the waveform sitting there, held in time. That's being recreated, but
kind of almost fossilized into amber.
The
actual organic thing is right there.
Clever girl. Okay, so that process that I described, you get this, you maintain a continuous waveform from the moment the sound comes out of the performer in whatever way it is to the vinyl to the speakers. It's there's this direct line. It's never been disassembled and reassembled. It's never been cut up and put back together. It's completely continuous. And so now I'll take a step to the side just for a second, because there are some noticeable like sound qualities to vinyl. Like people do say, oh, it's warmer and stuff. It's just like, well, some of the obvious ones are records do allow for a little more dynamic range. And so, so listening to like classical music on vinyl can be really special, because usually classical pieces are known for having crazy dynamic range.
Yeah.
Well, they'll draw you in. Things. So it'll just be like the tiniest little flute, just like whispering in your ear, and then like you get in close, and then like a trombone comes in and just like smacks your head. Yeah. Suddenly, like the seas are roaring and volcanoes are exploding, and so vinyl does allow for that. Vinyl also has it has like this. Has an interesting kind of like extended like frequency response a little bit. It has just, which can give sort of like an airy quality to it, just like this extra way up high frequency energy that sometimes it just makes things feel a little more like open, Mm-hmm. So that's something people report.
You can hear some of the space between things.
Yeah. Vinyl also has very good what would be called a transient response. And so what that means is like a transient sound is something that has a very short attack and a quick release. So the hitting of a drum, it's not you would like plucking a guitar string and letting it ring out. Wouldn't be very transient, but a drum is just like pop,
like a staccato kind of.
Yeah, a staccato thing.
Yeah.
So records have fantastic transient response. So that's one of the reasons. There's a few, but that's one of the reasons that, holy shit, drums recorded on tape back in the day, pressed to vinyl.
Yeah, they sound
nothing sounds
really
like
good.
that.
They sound really good.
Drums that's just how they sounded.
Yep.
Like you can make them sound like that now, but you got to go out of your way. But because like I said earlier, like the tape and the whole analog process, it messes with the sound, but in ways that reinforce the musicality.
Yeah.
And so it added color to the drum performance, but it's just the right fucking color. It's so good.
Yeah.
So the sound quality that's imparted with the fact that it's maintaining this continuous wave throughout the whole process, right? Is a little more hard. It's harder. It's there. I 100% believe it's there. It's a little harder to put your finger on. It's in the realm of. It's not in the realm of like easily. For lack of I don't know how to say it. Like it's not in the realm of like just easily seen and explained. It's more in the realm of like intuitive feeling. So it's not necessarily something you're like. It's not as conscious. Like, oh, that sounds better. It's just like this feels good.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that's imparted with this maintaining of the wave, because it just creates this. It creates this kind of unconscious, more direct connection to the performance that happened, that went on to the record.
Yeah. Because like our hearing isn't necessarily like at the level where you're going to hear all of those like steps on like a digital sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not going to like hear them maybe consciously, but your brain's kind of hearing it.
Yes.
There's an awareness
of it.
Yeah.
Somewhere. Yeah. And yeah, so that's when you get into like the emotional aspect of listening to a vinyl, which is like I think is the I think that's the center of why vinyl is so special. And then everything else, it's like everything else we talked about.
They kind of enforce that, or they kind of like
it reinforces it, but it's just all that stuff is secondary to this just maintaining of the performance. It's such an honest representation of the performance. It's as direct a transmission as you can do with recording and then getting it into somebody's house. And yeah, your body knows, and so like there's this like emotional soothing quality, and it just draws you in more. It's just more engaging because of that, and it's on this subtle emotional level. But I think that's why, and I've thought about it a lot, and I think that's why. And
it certainly beats the crap out of Edison cylinders.
Those are so cool.
I know,
just into wax,
Yeah,
it's so simple.
Toilet paper roll with with some wax around it.
It's so simple, It's just like a little piece of rubber that you talk into, and the rubber just moves and then etches it, and they made those initially. They weren't even thinking about music. They were thinking about interoffice communication.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you could and they probably had like pneumatic tubes at that time as well.
Sure.
So you could just lean in and just be like, get me I need this from downstairs. And then they take the freaking cylinder and then put it in a vacuum tube and shoot it down to processing or the count department or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, that was wild. I even saw like a, what would you call that? Like a piece of old like educational ephemera.
Okay.
Like letting people know, like, here's some new office technology. Look at how easy it is for him to communicate to his secretary, to take notes and stuff. But yeah, so this has all been building to that quality of vinyl, that it maintains this wave. And yeah, I think, and that's another reason that like, now this can depend on the system you're listening on quite a bit as well. People get really crazy with that. Oh my God, if you ever go down a rabbit hole intentionally, or your algorithm starts throwing you down a rabbit hole, and you start seeing some of the hi-fi setups that are out there.
Yeah.
It's it gets to such a high level that it starts to be stupid. Like it starts to be like just like, wow, that's really nice,
Yeah.
Wow, that's really intentional. That's beautiful. Just like, oh my God, how could it possibly be any better? It's incredible. And then you push it a little further, and you're just like, this is. You need to chill out.
Yeah, you were good here. Now you got to here, and now I think you're weird.
Yeah, it gets bananas. But it at the same time, it also goes to show you just like how much vinyl and the experience of listening to vinyl and tape and things like that, it inspires the heck out of people. It inspires people like just dump millions and millions of dollars into the most intentional speaker design and amplifier design and room acoustics just to and the reason I bring this up is in circles of people talking about vinyl, something that's very sought after is what they call the holographic effect. And that is the experience that you can, if you got a good pressing, good record, mixed well, and you got a killer system, which the best systems, all they do is they get out of the way.
Right, yep.
And they're designed with the music in mind.
Okay.
Because just like I was bringing up the musicality of analog systems, you can design stereos in different ways too. You can design stereos to be highly accurate, but not always what you want. You want it to you want it to reinforce the musicality.
Yep.
And so there was one of my professors in college owned a hi-fi store in Chicago, and everything in that store was specifically picked out because of its musicality. Like it supports the purpose.
Sure, yeah.
It might not be the most accurate piece of gear, but it makes the music more engaging.
Sure, yeah.
It's on the same team as the musical performance.
I imagine that your choices when it comes to that are going to vary depending on what you're going to be actually playing through it, right?
I feel like it kind of depends more on like how you want to interact with it.
Okay.
Like how intentional you want to be, how obsessed you are, like just like how if like because I feel like like everybody gets like a different level of high with music. And so if you're the person that like music is that's your drug,
thing,
then like you can go really deep. But then there's like on the flip side of like somebody being incredibly intentional, and just making sure like they have perfectly just pristine records and everything's really well taken care of. You have DJs who spin vinyl who have an entirely different relationship with their records. Yep.
It's like much more of a utilitarian sort of like.
Well, yeah, they're just they're not concerned as much with like maintaining these things perfect because they're putting their hands all over them.
Right. Yep.
They need to make quick changes, so they're kind of throwing them on. But that's just not the most important part of what they're doing. The important part is just the vibe. the shit that's on there.
Right.
And their interactions and their like and their in the moment mixing of things together. It's just
right. Catering the experience of curating the music and how to best support the vibe of the people that you're playing for.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, because it's a totally different ball game. Because like
it's totally different.
You're probably you're gonna be. I mean, I would assume you're gonna want probably more like bass response. You're gonna want more. Maybe even like maybe even to more of an exaggerated degree if you're doing like dance music or something like that.
Yeah.
You want to be able to get
get
the thing going. Get the booties moving.
I'll point this out. So like a couple big differences in terms of like gear, with the different ways they're interacting. Like, if you're like an audiophile and you're listening at home, you're gonna want a record player that's incredibly sensitive,
mm-hmm.
And you'll be really careful with it, and the more sensitive something is, the more fragile it is. But you want the sensitivity. You want to hear all the little details. You want every nook and cranny of the music experience. So you're going to want a nice sensitive turntable. You're going to want like a high quality, very accurate stylus and cartridge.
Right.
But somebody doing a DJ thing, the record player that they need they need a tank.
Yeah, they need a durable.
Because it might fall over. It might get dropped. They're bringing it all around all the time,
Right.
So that's a big one. And the stylus too.
I mean, if you're going to be scratching, you can't just...
and plus, like, you're just going to be running through styluses more. You're going to wear them out faster.
Yep.
Because you're just constantly, playing records on these things. So you might want something a little cheaper that's easier to... instead of something, all this stuff, it's ridiculous, man. It's just, it's pretty much, you could spend just as much money as you want. There's no like ceiling of this, like, this is the amount of money where like, there's nothing else for you to buy.
That just doesn't exist.
There is options that literally, there is stuff to buy at every amount of money that you could have.
Yeah.
You never get enough money where there's not something you can purchase at that level. It's ridiculous.
It's like, I mean, it's in all this other stuff, I mean, it's anything that you could get that deep into. Like a while ago Ludwig was selling a drum set that was made entirely out of B8 Paiste cymbal bronze.
Like the shells?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
$20,000.
Yeah.
You know, like for a 5-piece drum set.
Wow. Dear
But
Lord. But it's there.
it's there.
However much money you want to spend, you can spend it. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm sure that they sound like drums.
Yeah. Oh, but it's
Cool,
man.
But it's cool. But and also, you know, I can, despite me saying that they sound like drums, they're not going to sound like this. They're not going to sound like this kit.
No.
It's going to sound different.
No.
You know, and like you can tune them differently, and you could get those drums to sound. You get these drums to sound like those drums. Those drums to sound like these drums within a certain degree.
Yeah.
But the way that they sound just by default, if you just tune them to what the drums want to sound like, it's going to be totally different.
Yes. God, I don't know if I've ever seen. Obviously, I've seen like snare drum shells made out of various metals and different alloys and things like that. I don't think I've ever seen toms.
Yeah.
Like, was there like a period where that was more common, or?
I mean,
I don't really remember ever seeing them.
The two materials that you'll ever see drums made out of generally, like a kit, it's going to be wood or acrylic.
Yeah.
So you'll have those like clear ones, like the Ludwig Vista lights.
Seen those for sure.
But yeah, they definitely did stainless steel. Like Ludwig did stainless steel kits for a while. Fibes drums is fiberglass shells.
Oh, really? Has somebody done carbon fiber yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
The carbon fiber snare drum was like pretty popular for a while there.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I mean, it's anything that could create resonance. DW a couple of years ago did a concrete snare drum.
Okay.
And honestly, it sounds super cool.
Nice.
But like, I mean, it's a concrete snare drum.
It's what more do I have to say?
You in a nice gray concrete finish.
I like that people, you know.
I mean,
like
anything
that
that
take risks. Just like, let's see, you know.
Right.
Maybe this is the new thing. You never know.
Anything that, like, I mean, you know, if it can resonate, you might as well try turning it into a drum.
Yeah.
Like that's why they ended up being what they
That should be like the tagline of a drum company. Like, if it resonates, we're gonna try to make it a drum. Yeah.
We're gonna make it a drum, man.
Oh, but okay, hold on.
I got.
No, it's great.
I got off topic.
No, it's all fun. I'm just trying to think.
About like transparency. Like when you're talking about these things, a lot of it comes down seemingly to like the difference between like the really, really high end stuff would be like just a general sense of transparency that you don't even notice the system is there. Yeah,
where it just I feel like I got sidetracked. I didn't finish my thought. So this ties back in.
Yeah.
So yeah, what people go for in really high end systems, the kind of feeling they're looking for is what I mentioned earlier, the holographic effect. And that's the effect that you can get. And you can get this with high resolution digital audio too.
Yeah.
But again, the only thing you miss between like just a perfectly pressed record in a great system and high resolution digital audio is you just miss a little bit of it's just a difference in feeling. You can't hear it necessarily.
There's like a fluidness.
You can't hear it necessarily. Obviously you can hear like sonic differences, but the main difference, you can't really hear it. It's just something you feel. And it's just because, again, no matter how high resolution it is, it's still being cut up and put back together. And that takes something out of it a little bit. This holographic effect, it's the effect of if all the stages of this, are great. You got a good record, good system, good room, good placement in the room for your speakers and where you're sitting. you get this effect of like it being like really easy to imagine that the music you're hearing is being performed in the room.
Sure.
It really feels like they are there, you know?
Yep.
And I realized this when I was taking classes at this hi-fi audio store, that if you do have a system that's at that level, and the source material, which is the most important part of any system, is like
what are you actually playing on?
Yeah, the initial thing. Yeah, if all that was good, and it made absolutely anything played on it amazing. It didn't matter what kind of music it was, if that was a kind of music that you naturally liked or were into.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what it was, because it had that effect. Like, any music is more interesting when it's happening in front of you. You know, even if you're not into it, like you don't like a particular genre, if you see somebody playing that, it's still like engaging.
It's more engaging, yeah.
And so that's kind of the magic and the draw to like achieve this holographic effect when doing home listening, is it really feels like they're there, you know?
Sure.
And yeah. So yeah, that's where the feelings come in, you know?
I have to water up.
So engaging. Yeah, I think I did everything. Yeah, we can call it there for this topic. I think I did all the things.
I'm gonna water up.
All right.
I'm gonna do it.